She doesn't want to be in this toxic venting group where they're hating men. She wants a man. Sean, you are a lawyer.
That is right.
I know a little bit about Sean. I know that he's represented a lot of clients. One of the reasons you're on the show is because of where we met. These things we're holding was the intermediary that actually got us to meet at a cigar lounge.
Yes.
Which then sparked a conversation with many different things about life, but one of them was movies. Even though you're a lawyer, you still have an articulation about movies that is surprising, that not a lot of people would expect. Now, so this is what brings us to the heat of the matter. You and I talked about having a discussion about a movie, and we weren't sure what it would be. We were tentative about the selection of movies. Right. I did a poll on the channel in the community post tab. The movie that actually won, which was The Fugitive, and he said, no, that's not a legal movie, we can't do that one. And then talked it out about what movies would actually be in consideration, because there were a lot of movies that we were talking about what we could do. This was by your suggestion. You decided to pick Jerry Maguire. And I was surprised by that, because we were going under the premise that the movie we would be talking about would be a legal movie or take place in a courtroom, but this movie doesn't. Why Jerry Maguire?
So, a couple of reasons why. One, I've always loved the movie. It's one of those movies where I can watch it over and over. I always find something new about the movie that I really like. It's sort of one of those where you know the line that's coming and you still laugh anyway. You know what I mean? It doesn't lose its flavor, its originality. Two, I would say there were parts of the movie that were filmed at Arizona State when I was at Arizona State.
While they were filming?
They actually used students as extras to fill up the stadium for that scene at the end of the movie where Rod catches the football in the end zone and they're not sure if he's injured. So that was filmed like just down the street.
So instead of going from the beginning and moving linearly, you brought up the scene in the third act of the film.
Yeah.
And I don't care. We'll just talk about the third act.
Yeah.
Rod milks the moment.
Yes.
While he was unconscious, I thought of the possibility that, well, what if he is faking being unconscious?
Oh.
What if? Eventually he knows he has to come to.
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because it would have upset his wife. And if there's anything about Rod, that he would do anything to maybe milk the moment, but not if it would cause his wife to worry about him. That's the only reason why I don't think he did. Because you remember she calls Jerry and she says, whatever you do, you have to bring him home to me. He would know that she was watching the game with the family, and for him to be not moving, that would upset her. So I don't
I totally agree with you. You've convinced me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. No, not if it would worry her.
Right?
Yeah.
So for the audience that maybe hasn't seen the film, why don't we quickly do a log line? So Jerry Maguire is a sports agent. While he's very successful, he has a moment of clarity and he writes a mission statement that makes him get fired, and eventually he only represents one client. The movie then turns, and this is longer than a sentence or a very run-on sentence. Now it's a synopsis. He brings with him one of the staffers, Renee Zellweger, Dorothy. She decides to go with him to start a new company. And the movie turns into essentially a romance.
Yes.
Drama. I found that very surprising watching it this time, is how more focused on that relationship the movie is. It goes away from the corporate, athletic, sports agency and handling all that stuff and the money. Show me the money. Show me the money! All of that goes to the wayside, surprisingly. Mid-second act and then the third act is mainly about that relationship between Jerry and Dorothy.
Yeah.
First of all, how do you feel about that balance of the movie starts off one way where you think it's going to be kind of Aaron Sorkin-esque? Because it does move really fast in the beginning, doesn't it?
Yes. Almost
it's
like Entourage. You almost, it's sort of like an Entourage kind of a thing where every scene with celebrities and stars and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I remember watching that movie. I wasn't quite sure where this was all going.
This is when you first sat down in the theater.
When I first saw it in the theater. I remember going to the theater and to me it was just a bunch of scenes, but I didn't see sort of how they all tied together. Halfway through the movie, it was sort of, But I remember it was almost like halfway through the movie, and I couldn't quite see, but I almost think it's the beauty of the movie. I still think to this day the movie should get more credit for how wonderful it is. But yes, the beginning, you think it's going to be sort of fast-paced. He's a mover and a shaker. He's signing people up. He's a sports agent, and, he's going to be meeting football players and basketball players. It's kind of this fast-paced, because at the beginning, remember, it's the bachelor party.
Kelly Preston makes a video showcasing her burning the Black Book, which for people who don't understand what that is, the Black Book is the collection of ex-girlfriends, essentially, and their information, their phone numbers.
Yes.
And she does this pastiche on that with a whole bunch of interviews of his exes, which, by the way, dude, that wouldn't happen. No, none of those women would do that. They would not go on camera and do that.
Right.
But it's a heightened reality to some degree. It's a movie, yada, yada. So it does have an effect. It's there because it develops the character of Jerry.
Yeah.
In a shorthand way.
Yeah.
He's just really bad at intimacy.
He can't be alone. He can't be alone.
So I know why Cameron Crowe did that, to develop the character for the audience to understand it in a interesting way, an entertaining way, rather than someone speaking. The camera's over the shoulder and someone's explaining, well, Jerry, you're this way, Jerry, you're that way.
Yeah.
People starting off would do a scene like that. But Cameron Crowe has done enough movies. He's a very talented director. He's done a lot of films that are classics at this point.
Yeah.
Say Anything is one of the staples of the 80s genre for romance movies, of like high school movies. And then he did Almost Famous.
Yep.
And Almost Famous has what is called the bootleg cut, which is about an hour longer.
Is that right?
Yeah, that could be a whole other
I
thing,
didn't
dude.
even know
No,
it
it's a
existed.
great cut.
Okay.
I think it's better than the theatrical cut. That's the way the movie was meant to be.
Okay.
It feels as though that is the way the movie was intended. The point is, Cameron Crowe has made movies at the beginning and midway point of his career, and he's kind of gone off the radar. He hasn't done much since Aloha, which wasn't really well received. But in the mid-90s and 80s, he was well regarded. And he did this movie, Jerry Maguire. First of all, I think he cast the hell out of this movie. The cast is fantastic.
Yeah. 2 breakout roles, Cuba Gooding Jr. and Renee Zellweger, who were largely sort of unknown before this movie, and then they became household names.
Well, wait, hold on, Sean. You're forgetting Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Four.
They filmed here in Texas,
That's
in
right.
Austin, I
Okay.
believe, right? But this was kind of her breakout role.
Yeah.
She's fantastic in it. There's some moments where I'm looking at a scene. She looks like Jennifer Lawrence in some of these shots, man.
She does. She
You
does.
know?
Yeah.
And it's not just because she's blonde, blah, blah, blah. It's the facial expressions and some of the acting, like the tender expressions that she gives. Yeah, Renee Zellweger is a standout in this. And in a way, to switch to another actor, the main actor, Tom Cruise, this movie was almost a reinvention of his career in the same vicinity as Mission Impossible, because they both came out in close proximity within about a year of each
I didn't
other.
realize they were that close.
Right, they were
I
damn
mean,
close, dude.
I didn't realize they were.
He was blazing with those two movies in different genres, essentially. The previous movies that he had done...
Yeah, what were some of the ones that led up to this movie?
Yeah, so we got Few Good Men, which was also a consideration of a movie we could have done, but it was kind of stereotypical. Far and Away was Nicole Kidman. Days of Thunder was 1989 or 90.
Sounds right.
The Firm.
Yeah.
Maybe one other movie I'm not recalling.
Up until that time, he had done some movies in between, but I think a lot of people still remembered him from Top Gun, which had come out almost a decade before. Obviously other movies, but I think up until that point, this was sort of a different kind of role for him. There aren't too many people I could see really playing that role. It almost, when I think of that movie, I start thinking about who else could have played him.
Originally, Tom Hanks, he was supposed to play Jerry Maguire.
And I had this idea for That Thing You Do. I made that movie and was not available then to work with Cameron Crowe on the movie. That I would like to think, however, that Tom Cruise owes me $1, and I'm still waiting for the check.
It just feels right with him in that role. Actually, all of them, you were talking about the cast. All of them, I think, were cast amazingly. No, you hit a home run with that one. They were all cast very well in that movie. Yeah.
And I gotta say, dude, it's a huge contrast from how movies are being cast today of various reasons, and we won't get into it because it'll go off on a tangent.
Sure.
But this movie when we're talking about the cast is so solid. It's rare these days to have a movie like this that has a cast that is so fitting for the movie. But this one got it right. In addition to, you have a great director, you have a great script.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some things to poke holes at it. Like the question of why did the agency fire Jerry so soon after the mission statement, even though he didn't do technically anything with his clients? He didn't change, nothing had happened yet. Mm-hmm. See what I mean? What's your thought on that?
So I do think it may sound a bit rushed because you remember he visits the hockey player in the hospital. The hockey player's kid mouths off to him.
That is the moment that makes him grow the conscience.
Right, and then he goes to the copy place and he has the manifesto, drafted, the mission statement, and he had a copy put in everybody's mailbox. He then has second thoughts about it, and
Which
he
was
calls.
weird. This is weird, Sean, is that you would think that the night prior he was drinking, and that's what made him do all that stuff. It kind of looks that way because he's sweaty.
No, he blames it on some bad pizza, if you remember.
Whatever that means.
He blames it.
That's not going to change your psychology. Pizza, bad pizza. So that's the thought is, well, maybe he was drinking, and they didn't mention it. Maybe Tom Cruise didn't want to have the character do that.
Maybe it wouldn't have advanced what they were trying to do with the character. Yeah.
But either way, it happened. So maybe this was a moment of suspending your disbelief of, okay, this guy just unexpectedly wrote this mission statement that's completely out of character for him. And it's good that they had the moment with the kid where he said, fuck you. And then he just has this, he's affected by this kid, which you would think, as he describes himself, am I a shark in a suit? Mm-hmm. You'd have to have a tough skin to be in that position that he is in. And so for him to be affected by a kid, now that I'm talking about this all makes sense. That he has a soft spot for kids because we see he has a soft spot for Ray, and he falls in love essentially as a father to a kid who's lost his dad. Okay, I just explained that by talking it out with you.
I didn't pick up anything about the kid until you mentioned it. When
I didn't either until we were talking about it.
No, that's right. I didn't pick that up either. So that's an interesting point.
Yeah, why is he affected by this little kid?
Yeah,
who just says "F you" to him?
Yeah,
it shouldn't. I mean, you would just brush that off as a kid that's worried about his dad. I get it, but I'm moving on and I'm doing my job. So the only reason he would be affected by that is because there is an unspoken desire in Jerry to become a father.
Okay.
But back to the firing.
Yeah.
He gets fired within a couple days?
Yeah, because he comes back, they have a bachelor party, and then at the bachelor party, remember, Bob Sugar tells him, hey, we're on for lunch tomorrow, right?
What a prick that guy is.
And then at lunch, that's when he gets fired.
Yeah.
So
now he gets fired because truncated version of his mission statement, less clients, less money, I believe it is.
Yeah, more attention. Yeah.
So and we would agree that the less money part doesn't quite make sense. The less clients for the intention of focusing more personally on them makes sense.
Right.
But for him to say less money, that was his death sentence.
Yeah.
Because you could maybe have an agent that says, well, I want to focus more on my clients and not have so much of my attention spread out to so many, and I believe he says he has about 76 or somewhere in the 70 range of clients.
Yeah.
The point still remains that he was fired within a couple days before he made any change-ups in the way he does business. They just fired him based on something that he wrote.
Yeah, but remember, I think if he had just said it, if there was a meeting and he stood up at the meeting and said, why don't we do this? But the fact that he types it up and then he puts it in everybody's mailbox. What if other agents decided to start doing that, right? So I don't think it was the fact that he said it, but it was the fact that,
influence.
Yeah, that he went to the lengths to put it. And what if another agency got a copy of that and said, oh, look what they're doing over there, right? In essence, less money meant that their clients are getting less money, right? Because they're taking a percentage. So their clients maybe want more money. The more the client makes, the athlete, the more the agent makes. So when he's saying less money, does that mean that the client's going to say, no, I'm the athlete, you work for me. Maybe the client wants more money. They don't want any of that around. You got to fall in line. And he didn't, and they can't have that.
I would think at one point they would have a scene in which he would be asked to sit down with the higher up, and they would explain to him, hey, can you do a retraction of this? Give him a chance.
Yeah.
Sugar is just a peer. He's not a higher up.
No, I think he even says, what it was like having to fire my mentor. Jerry trained Bob Sugar. Maybe they were peers now.
Yeah,
but
that's what I mean.
But
why would a peer be the one to fire him, except from Twisted Delight?
Oh, you mean like instead of calling him into his boss's office and doing
Exactly.
it there? Well, you could make the argument that maybe those were the ethics of that company, that they wouldn't even just fire him face to face. They made his mentee have to fire him. So
that is twisted.
So you could say
that could have been a point in the movie where Jerry says, "This is ridiculous. My boss wouldn't even fire me." And I think you see his boss up in the higher level looking down.
Yeah. Or maybe that's how little they thought of him.
Yeah.
Like, we're not even going to bring him into our office. We're going to have somebody else fire him. So you think about it that way.
What a shitty workplace. Yeah, let's pause 1 second. I'm going to put a log on it because the fire's going down.
Sure.
One thing you guys should talk about is the Cushman character and the backstabbing.
That comes into a theme I have of the movie, but no, it's good that you brought it up.
Well, let's bring that up.
Yeah.
He establishes that he's a man of his word. It's like Oak. They shake hands. Some scenes afterwards, it's then revealed that he's turned coat and signed with Sugar. Basically trying to hedge his bets and goes with the one outcome of who can give me the best deal.
Right.
I get it. It's just the way he went about it is sleazy. Also, it's revealed that he's a racist, too.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is pretty fucking stupid because his son is working in the NFL arena. You think he's a stand-up guy, a dad that wants the best for his kid, and then he turns out he's a scumbag.
So here's a theme that I'd like to discuss with you about the movie. The people that he thinks are solid are not solid, and the people who he initially does not take seriously end up being the most quality people.
And loyal.
Remember at the beginning, he's with Kelly Preston, and then even after he gets fired, remember she says, "Don't worry about it, you're gonna go, you're gonna sign Cush, it's gonna be okay." And he thinks that she's in his corner. When he loses Cush, she's so cold to him, and that's when he breaks up with her.
Why would he break up with Avery right after he's down in the dumps professionally?
No, because
why the hell would he do that?
Because
he's vulnerable.
He tells her he's lost Cush.
Yeah.
And she doesn't show any sort of maternal instinct. She doesn't show any empathy towards him. She doesn't take a moment to say, "Jerry, this is terrible. I can't believe they went behind your back. I can't believe they did this." She doesn't show any sort of kindness towards him. And I think that's when he kind of realizes, is this really who I'm going to marry? Now, he also thought the father, remember he wanted to sign the contract with the father. So these are two people that he thinks are upstanding, and they both betray him. Compare that with Dorothy. Remember, he says, "Who's coming with me?" And she decides to come with him, but I'm not really sure whether he took her very seriously at the beginning, and he certainly didn't take Rod very seriously at the beginning. As the movie goes on, he realizes that Rod is a very quality person. He's devoted to his family. He's devoted to his wife. He's a very pure person. And Dorothy as well. She understands what he's going through, and she's trying to help him run the business. She believes in him, and Rod Tidwell and Rod's wife both believe in Jerry. As the movie develops, him and Rod, he confides in Rod. They become friends, and then he really starts to notice his true nature. He really begins to respect Rod. In a way, at the beginning, I don't think he really did. And then, obviously, his romance with Dorothy. But I think at the beginning, when she came to work for him, he was almost, I think, sort of disappointed because he wanted more of the agents to come, follow him and things like that.
Yeah. The whole aspect of why Dorothy did that. Why did she go with Jerry in that moment? It could have been, on the surface, she felt bad for him and decided to do that. However, I think there was a degree of crush there. And she also knew, because she's a widow, we find out that Dorothy's husband or father of her son died. I don't know how he died. I even asked Megan, I said, did you hear if they mentioned how he died? It's only mentioned in the kitchen scene where Dorothy is speaking to Laurel.
Yeah, her sister. Yeah.
About the husband dying, just that he died. That's it. It's all ambiguous in terms of what happened to that husband.
I think in the movie, it's evident that Dorothy was looking for meaning. She was very sort of altruistic. You remember at the baggage claim when the flight lands and Ray is on the luggage thing, and she says, I read your memo.
Sure.
So that sparked in her a genuine interest that she was looking for this meaning.
Yeah, deeper than I feel bad for you.
Yeah, just it wasn't just showing up to a 9 to 5.
Right. Dorothy losing Ray in that airport when that's the only person she has to keep an eye out on, that doesn't reflect well on her as a mother. Just a little tidbit there I want to add. That doesn't, I grew up in a very large family, and it would be, my parents were navigating, half a dozen children at once.
Well, she takes this leap. I mean,
never got kidnapped.
She leaves to join his fledgling company because she believed in something greater, that this was going to turn into something.
Now, let's examine a little bit of the whole romance aspect.
Love.
I like the dynamic that Cameron Crowe writes in the movie in which Jerry is more connected to Ray, the son.
Yes.
Yeah. He doesn't say it, that he's not in love with Dorothy. It's just the son is who he wants to be around. He has a conversation with Rod about that.
Right.
And Rod says something about, you're shoplifting he doesn't say tang, he says something else.
I didn't shoplift the pootie.
But do you see at that point when they have that conversation, he's learning about Rod. That to me is the one scene where I think he really starts to see there's a lot more to Rod below the surface. Mm-hmm. Because remember he has that whole thing where he says, look, she's a single mother. He goes, single mom women don't date. Remember he has that whole conversation with him when he says, if you love her, you have to tell her. 20 minutes before, you would not have thought they would be having that kind of conversation. But I think it really shows, wow, this guy really has a lot of character to him, and he really begins to respect him more, that he really values their friendship. Mm-hmm. I think with Dorothy that I don't think he really realizes what he has until that last scene in the movie when Rod comes out of the locker room and Jerry's phone goes off. And here you have this masculine football player, right, who's this tough guy, but yet he starts crying on the phone with his wife, telling her he's okay. That's when there's that scene of Tom Cruise running out of the locker room and then running to the airport to get the last flight home.
Which we get a couple moments in the movie of Tom doing his run. The fastest run that he does in this movie is when he's running out from the stadium in the tunnel.
Right.
That's where you get full on Tom Cruise doing his famous run.
Yeah.
So he's got to fit that in there. Yeah, that's the thing is, just for Jerry to witness the phone call that Rod has with his wife is enough for him to fall in love with Dorothy. I don't know about that. The conversation within the movie of whether or not he's in love with her, you can't just switch and then he's just automatically in love with Dorothy.
No, but think about this. Let's say Rod didn't get the new contract. He'd be happy with what he had. He had his wife, he had his children, he had his family, he had his house. That was the most important thing to Rod. Of course, the contract, yes. But in that movie, an alternate ending, Rod would have been okay. Where I think maybe Tom Cruise was sort of realizing, isn't that what I said in my mission statement? I have Dorothy, I have Ray, I'll be okay.
Yeah. And what was he expecting or waiting for otherwise when he was hesitant about committing to her, even after they got married? But then they have that conversation about, Dorothy does most of the talking, and she says that I don't want to be in a relationship with someone that isn't going to be in love with me. But that's the thing I go back to is there's not a lot that would have changed the way that Jerry felt about her other than him just appreciating her more. And
I would have liked to have seen the movie focus a little more on their romance, right? I mean, they have a date and then all of a sudden he's proposing. I do think...
Dude, Sean, the date that they go on is they go to third base in the doorstep, essentially. It's almost implied that he's almost nearly going down on her while she's standing up.
If there was any critique of the movie, I would have liked to have seen that sort of, it to be a little bit more dating. I see the end of the movie when he's running back. I think he finally realizes what's most important.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and when he sees
my
that...
wordage is finding that appreciation for what's in front of him the whole time.
Yeah.
rather than the focus of whatever it was. I don't know what he was expecting. We don't know what his desire was personally. Yeah, we know about his professional aspirations, but in terms of his personal life, we don't hear him talking about what kind of woman he's looking for. He's like, what other woman could you find better than what Dorothy is doing for you? She believes in you. She is encouraging for what you do. She's sacrificing part of her life for you. Yeah. She's willing to put herself there as the helper, as, you know, going back to the Bible, talking about how the woman is the helper. She is doing that. One actor I want to bring up in this movie. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
One thing I don't like about Jerry was the fact that his exes said he can't be alone.
Yes.
I don't believe at any point is he really alone.
No.
Because he shacks up with Dorothy right away.
Yes.
And then he
right away, no.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, because you remember the night that he goes to her house. And then their date is
he cops a feel, but nothing happens that night. So fair.
But then their date's a couple days later. I mean, he's alone for. You're right. He's alone for.
Right, but to say that he can't be alone, that he tries to get with her, he's not trying to go after her right away. It's when he was drunk that night that he.
Yeah, but then they have a date after they don't get the deal. It's within. I mean, days. You're right. It's within days. He's not like alone for 6 months. He's alone a very, very short amount of time. It seems like they have a date and then they're getting married.
And it's not even a marriage for the sake of I love you so much. Yeah, that is a little bit of it, but it's mainly because she needs the insurance. She's moving away to be able to get money so she can insure her son.
My son is really allergic to the material on the blankets, and I was wondering if
that's all we have, okay? You know how much those well child exams cost?
Of course I know,
$150. Yes, that's right. And that's just when he's well.
I know a way we can save on medical, or if we got married.
She does want to pursue the relationship, knowing he has just been engaged, it fell apart, his business is falling apart. But what I see in her is, through all of that, she sees through the smoke. She just believes in him. So I keep coming back to what he wanted this whole time was right there in front of him.
And that's really ultimately the theme of the movie. It's not about sports. It's not about the corporate world. That's just a smokescreen for ultimately a romance movie. The most famous scene is the "You Complete Me" scene. And not only that, this is what's fascinating about this movie. Not only does it have one iconic line, it has two. You have the "You Complete Me," and then Dorothy says, "Shut up, you had me at hello." You have two iconic lines right next to each other.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For someone who saw it for the first time, what did you think of it?
It's a good film. I don't think I would revisit it, only because I don't like the Jerry Maguire character.
What is wrong with you?
Really?
I don't feel like there was really love there. I think it was all convenience for him. He didn't really show a lot of love towards her till the end.
And that didn't redeem the character for you?
No.
Well, you can't have a character throughout the entire movie that doesn't have an arc.
It's true, but I would want a space where you see him kind of alone with his own thoughts, figuring out what he wants with the rest of his life, and he doesn't. He goes straight from breaking up with Avery, and then having a feel and kissing, and then making out with her on the doorstep.
You making it sound worse than it is. He's not a scumbag. He's trying to make it work, and he's trying to be honest for who he is in the moment.
I think they both need each other at a certain point.
Yeah.
She's looking for meaning in her life and in her profession.
And he's in this transition point in his life.
He's at this transition
point. He had this
point.
reckoning happen with the status quo was for his life, which was all focused on business and work and his clients and making money. And we're witnessing the transition of that, where he's now balancing, he's finding this balance of what is it that means more and the most in life. And he's learning the lesson from Rod. Yeah. You can see them eventually doing holidays together.
Yeah.
They become friends. You know? And their chemistry in the movie, Cuba Gooding Jr. and Tom Cruise, is fantastic.
Get back to the guy who first started playing this game. Remember? Way back when you were a kid? It wasn't just about the money, was it? Was it?
Do your job. Don't you tell me to dance.
Fine. Hey!
Fine! I am an athlete. Fine! These are the ABCs to me, baby. I do not dance, and I do not start preseason without a contract. Fine.
And it's not spoken about, but part of the reason why Cuba won the Oscar is because of that chemistry.
Yeah.
Yes, he brought his own flair to that performance, but a lot of it is because of that scene partner, Tom Cruise.
I am out here for you.
Yeah.
And again, Tom has not won an Oscar for any of the movies that he's done, any of the performances, which is a poor reflection on the quality of the Oscars and how they've made mistakes. And they're making more of them these days, but that's another tangent we won't go down. How many times have you seen this movie?
Oh, a couple dozen,
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen this movie a lot.
I mean, collectively through the years, I don't know, maybe I've seen it maybe about a dozen times, maybe half of that. I'm not sure. It's hard to say because some of these movies that you grow up on, you just don't keep track of that. Now, the question that I did ask you at the beginning, which is a good kind of bookend, is...
Wait.
Okay, I'll have to restate that.
Hold on. One last thing before you bookend it. I loved the juxtaposition between all of Jerry Maguire's exes, but then the next time you see a bunch of women it's a divorcee group.
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
Who is it for?
I think they're there for the sister. I think they're there for Laurel. I don't think they're there for Dorothy. I think it's Laurel's
Do we
group.
ever see Laurel engaged in that group? She's always in the kitchen, dude. Oh, you didn't think about that, did you? You've seen this movie over a dozen times, and you didn't realize that, did you?
Well, maybe you're all correct, men are the enemy.
It tells me that she's fed up with that shit. She doesn't want to be in this toxic venting group where they're hating men. She wants a man.
I think they're there for Laurel. I think it's just Laurel, she's the host, so she's just going in the kitchen.
I think she started off, before this movie started, that Laurel started this group to help herself and other women, but then at a certain point, she didn't like that group anymore, and she isolates herself in the kitchen. Oh, I'm gonna get you girls drinks, yada, yada, yada. She lives in that kitchen, dude. Don't read into that, you neo-femmies. Every interaction with Dorothy, yada, yada, she has interactions with Jerry.
Yeah, there
It's
are a
always
lot
in
of
that
scenes with
kitchen,
her in
dude.
the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
I think that the group was...
For Laurel.
For Laurel, yeah.
Like I said, she started that group to help herself and other women from the trauma of divorce, etc. I suspect that most of them are there because as a consequence of men leaving them.
The next time that you decide to lecture me, don't leave my little boy in that room with that divorced women's group.
I love Bonnie Hunt.
The underrated MVP of this movie is Bonnie Hunt.
Lean forward. Okay, I've got it. Still edible? Change your shirt.
She, when I first saw her growing up in Beethoven, she gives this dry kind of humor to every role she brings to, and she has this Midwestern quality. I believe she is from the Midwest, maybe even from Chicago. She is so excellent in every movie she's in. It doesn't matter whatever movie she's in. I think she was in Return to Me, another romance drama.
Her new movie, which she wrote, directed, and stars in, Return to Me. Please welcome Bonnie Hunt.
She is excellent. She brings such naturalism and realism to her performances.
Watch your mouth. Nobody is going to hell.
That's great. You taught him hell.
I did not. You picked it up from your mom, didn't you?
I have never said hell, you
somebody.
son of a bitch.
I'll get back.
With lines that normally would have been delivered stereotypically. Say Dorothy says she's gonna wear this or whatever, and the line is, no, you don't want to do that. Another actress would have delivered it in a way of, well, you don't want to do that. But Bonnie Hunt delivers it in a way it's so sharp and dry of, no, you don't want to do that. It's fantastic. She's such a great presence in any movie that she's done. I wish that she had her time to shine more so than she did. I mean, she's in prolific movies, obviously, but in movies in which maybe she was the female lead of some romantic movie, something akin to a Meg Ryan movie back in the day, that type of thing. I think she was prime for a leading actress role, and she didn't get that. She was always relegated to the supporting character. Should have been nominated many a time for performances. Fantastic actress, yes. Love her.
Yeah, well, once again, it goes back to that movie, the casting is just, it's just one of those movies where the casting was just spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, And as much as you don't like him in the movie, Bob Sugar, Jay Moore played that role. I always love that scene, Rod and Jerry, they hug. And then Jay is trying to hug his client, and the athletes, get off of me. But they could see they really care about each other more than just what income he can bring him.
This is a juxtaposition to when they're at dinner with Rod, and Jerry tries to be affectionate with Dorothy.
And it's very forced.
And now he's at this point where he has a genuine connection with Rod, and he does that. He has that relationship.
Yeah.
And then you see that moment mirrored with Sugar,
right,
trying to do that. The movie is very well written.
Yeah,
dude. It's very well made.
Yeah,
Cameron Crowe has made some really great movies. The question that I asked you at the beginning that I want to ask you again, because we kind of went off onto other things, but it's a good bookend, is of all the films that we had in consideration to do, why was Jerry Maguire the movie that you chose? The only thing you told me was that this was the movie that made you want to become a lawyer.
It was one of the movies, yes. When I was thinking about, applying to law school, and I was thinking, what do I want to do? I kept coming back to that movie. It's a creative way to be a lawyer is what I remember thinking, right? So he's a lawyer, but he's using that with sports. He's kind of putting the two together. It was not a coincidence that movie came out when it came out. I don't believe in coincidences. So there was the fact that movie came out while I was sort of in that whole preparing for law school, thing like that. When that came out, that really hit home to me.
Solidified.
Yeah. It was a poignant moment,
Dude, yeah. So Tom Cruise. It's all thanks to Cameron Crowe and Tom Cruise.
Jerry Maguire,
yeah.
Jerry Maguire, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Next year is going to be the 30th anniversary, dude.
Right.
So we're a little bit early, but still, 30 years old.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been around. It's a film that showcases a side of Tom Cruise that I think he should bring back, because even though I love Mission Impossible, and I'm anticipating Mission Impossible 8, I think Jerry Maguire is a trait and a side of Tom Cruise that he should show more in his older age of those types of films. Ultimately, Jerry Maguire is a character piece, and he does excel at character pieces.
Yeah.
And he hasn't done that in 15 years or so, maybe American made, but that's still kind of an action movie.
Yes.
A straight kind of drama. He hasn't done that type of movie in many, many years. Yeah. I really hope that he gets back to doing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's really good at it. He's multifaceted, and he's one of the actors. He might be the top actor that I see as a professional role model. Every role that Tom Cruise is in, there's still an element of Tom Cruise.
Sure.
But yet, at the same time, he's able to excel in different roles. I think Collateral is one of his most underrated performances, and he should have absolutely gotten an Oscar for that role. I think it is his best performance. And he's playing a villain, right? And he does it convincingly well. A huge turn from when you compare him as Jerry Maguire to him as Vincent.
I'm not playing.
I hope that he gets back to doing character pieces, because he does excel in that, not just as an action leading man. I like variety, and he's able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
And hopefully he brings that back.
Yeah.
Bring it, Tom. Any last words about Jerry Maguire?
I think it's a classic. I think 50 years from now, people are still going to be watching that movie. A movie where it just all sort of comes together. You know what I mean? They were in the right place in their lives. The movie was obviously well done, very well written, very well directed.
And an original movie.
And a very original movie.
This is not based off of a book, or this is a new original movie at the time that Cameron Crowe created, and it's iconic, and he created that.
You think of Harrison Ford, you think of Indiana Jones, right? You think of Tom Cruise, I think of Jerry Maguire, It's a wonderful film. So I'm glad we were able to talk about it, because I think the movie is very deep.
Making a video like this keeps it alive, and a reminder of the quality that is worth knowing about.
I hope that somebody watches this, and as I like to say, It's sort of like if you have heard a song before, but you maybe didn't really listen to the lyrics, maybe just glossed them over. And then maybe you learned something about the song, why it was written, what was the meaning behind the song, and then you look at the song in a different way. And so I think that maybe if somebody watches the movie again and they pick up on some of these themes, that
maybe even watching this video and then watching it.
That's
because something that's interesting about doing these videos and sit-down discussions, and this is why I'm more pursuing a dual conversation rather than a singular one where I'm just talking to you, audience, and I'm talking to you or Ben or the future guests that will eventually come on here, I think, because I'm enjoying this very much. I am talking about a movie and I'm experiencing it in a different way, and I'm being enlightened from a different perspective and getting insights and receiving them in ways that I didn't on my own.
No, I think it's powerful. Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
Very touching.
So that's where we'll end it. And that's Jerry Maguire right there.
I like the fire.
Told you it was calming.
No, I have a fireplace. I actually have a fireplace at home. I rarely use it, but I should use it more because this is very relaxing. I love the smell coming out of it.
Absolutely. Dude, there's a reason that people through the ages, you see the men in their studies with the fireplace. There's a reason that they do that, and they did do that. Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome.